Hi guys, it's me. So, for some reason, I figured it would be a good idea to do another podcast today. I try to stick with once a week, but I think because of the current situation, I almost want to do it each time I find time, which is now, and maybe some of the things that are going on today and where we are today based on this crazy epidemic of coronavirus or the main topic of our society today. So I came across this, I don't know if it's a poem or I don't even know who wrote it, if anybody, it could have been just someone jotting things down, and it just ended up being on my lap. And I read it, and I think it would be good to just kind of share it with you all and have you listen, have you be in your own thoughts and hear the words and how you feel about it. So let me just read it first. And then, not sure how long this podcast will go, long, short, or maybe just it. So it is on vulnerability. So it goes. Those who feel worthy have a strong sense of love and belonging. They believe that they are loved and belong. They believe they are worthy and are connected. They are wholehearted, living from a deep sense of worthiness. They have a sense of courage which is different from bravery. Cool heart. To tell the story with your whole heart. Wholehearted people have the courage to be imperfect, compassionate to themselves first, and then with others. They had connections as a result of authenticity, to let go of who they should be in order to be who they are, for connection. They embrace vulnerability. It made them beautiful. It's not uncomfortable, nor is it excruciating or shameful, but it being necessary. They are the people who are willing to say, I love you first. Willingness to do something with no guarantees. To breather after hearing bad news. To be in relationships that may not work. To live is to embrace vulnerability and not control or predict. Vulnerability is the core of shame and fear in our struggle for worthiness, but also the birthplace of joy, creativity, belonging, and love. Vulnerability means to let ourselves be deeply seen, to love with our whole heart even though there is no guarantee, to practice love, gratitude, and joy. To be vulnerable means to be and to feel, quote unquote, I am alive and I am enough. We have to stop screaming and begin listening, to be kinder and gentler with ourselves and with others. So I thought it was a pretty well written, I don't know if we want to call it a poem or a story. And on vulnerability, because I think the current situation sure brings us there. We are experiencing a lot of anxiety because of the unknown and almost feeling like we're in a foreign situation, a situation that has minimal control. We are dealing with depression, the part of us who is sad and feels a certain way because we're unable to do so many different things. It's almost like, I thought about this earlier, it almost sounds like we are rebooting our brain by being in the situation that we are. And what I mean by that is that we have, not necessarily in a negative way, but we have been forced to live in a very isolated world, isolated places, right? Which means homes, work, as I have mentioned in my, I think, first podcast. So the rebooting of the brain, in other words, means something that we've always wanted, always said we never had time for it, and a possibility that we might have the time now. So what that means is grabbing the book, during crossword puzzles, watching the episode that you've always wanted to watch and actually finishing it, to read a book, to play with your children or make a project that you thought you could never make. So the rebooting, as I thought about it earlier, the rebooting of the brain can also mean challenging our brains to do something different, to allow something different to happen, to form new pathways, to quit smoking, to try that food that you never did before. Explore your senses, maybe your 5 senses, right? So in other words, explore your smells, explore your vision, explore your touch and taste, what you hear. Why not? We always say we don't have time because we're running around. We're always tired or always saying we don't have time. But we do. This is the time to have time. Why not form a new way of thinking by being vulnerable, by allowing ourselves to acknowledge that this is not easy. It is frustrating. It is sad. It is frustrating, but it is also good. Some of us may have lost our jobs and finances are at its peak. And it is beyond devastating. But can we do something positive and maybe take this time to explore something that we've always wanted? Start writing, start speaking. Hey, start podcasting. Why not? When we are infants, babies, we don't know anything. We learn new things. We learn patterns, habits, and they become ours, willingly or not. We learn to speak a certain way, behave a certain way, because of the way we grew up, because of what we saw, what we heard, what we experienced. This isolation can also allow us to possibly form a new conscious. Think differently, love differently, appreciate differently, and observe. I know I focused on breathing in my first episode, and I think I mentioned it in the second one, but there's a lot more that comes to it. Vulnerability. This is a side of us that we don't want to share, that we don't want people to see or hear, most of us at least. Why? Because we feel like we are judged, stereotyped, and looked down on, or whatever blank you want to fill in there. Vulnerability is amazing and beautiful. This is where your children, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, are able to express exactly what is going on. We just have a tendency to shut it down because it has to do with our own emotions. Vulnerability, the part of saying, I love you, to express feelings, the deeper feelings, so that way maybe we can connect with others a little bit better. Or not, I don't know. We deal with difficult people on an everyday basis. That's another, maybe day, another podcast. How do we survive difficult family members? Maybe that's another podcast, right? So vulnerability, the part of us that says, okay, I lost my job, but I am still here. The part of us that might feel a little bit under the weather, and the fear might be, crap, I have coronavirus. No, I could just be a little under the weather. The part of us that says I am enough. Or, do I want more to feel I am enough? So, shame, fear, guilt, disappointments. We can do something different with it. We can sure enjoy this time. We can take this opportunity of isolation and enjoy it. I'm not saying to the fullest, because I'm sure you will have your days of chaos and craziness and quote unquote vulnerability. But you can choose this time to be creative, to belong, to love others, or even yourself. What's wrong with it? Now, I know I can be talking here, and maybe some of us find it interesting, some of us find it boring. I find it quite interesting. I am a person that I would consider myself someone who has passion for thoughts, curiosities, questions. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's also part of us that can explore. What is wrong with loving yourself, loving someone else? What is wrong with you being vulnerable to yourself or to someone else? What is wrong with you wanting to do something different and unique because you've never done it before? So what if you cannot paint? Paint to the best that you can. Challenge yourself. Maybe for a moment, act like your 3-year-old. Why not? They roll themselves on the floor, do silly faces, talk differently, and we laugh at it. We enjoy it. Why not do it with them? As adults, we feel like we have to behave a certain way or do certain things a certain way. That's fine. There's rules and policies. And the way we do things, once again, whether it's from what we have learned, what we are learning. But I think, and I'm curious, what it would be like to take this time of isolation to reboot our brain, to think differently, not to find ourselves just being anxious and depressed and frustrated, because we already know that exists. We already know it's there. But take it, acknowledge it, and be curious about it. Learn more. We have time now. Whether it's those of us who have lost our jobs, whether it is those of us that are working from home and feel overwhelmed because now all of a sudden we're doing a job 24/7. We have time. And as much as I will say this, if we were to go back to normal tomorrow, most of us would say, I kind of wish I had more time so I can do X, Y, and Z. Because we normally find ourselves always saying we should have done something, or I should have done something differently if the time had passed. By this time, the time is here. It is hard, it is difficult. We already know this. Separation is not easy because normally we need human connection. But this can be good. Good things can come from this. We don't have to just focus on fear, because fear will take us to dark places. Worry will take us to dark places as well. This is the way our brain works. It almost wants to trick us to feel this way. But it can also allow us to find hope, to find positivity, to find time to love ourselves, to do something different. Now, I had time today, right now, to do this. Well, for one reason, I should still be working, but it worked out because I had a client that canceled a session. So I'm utilizing the time between 7 and 8 to do this, to speak, to express, to think, to feel. Or I could just run and go get my daughter, because naturally maybe that's what I would do. But I'm allowing my daughter to have her own time, to play, do whatever it is that she's doing. I know she's safe. I know she's good. And I am only taking care of myself for a little bit. And there is nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong taking 15 minutes for yourself. Whether it is to do something silly, whether it is to exercise in the comfort of your own home, or take a shower or a bath. A lot of things can be done in 15 minutes. So, what will you work on today? What it is that you want to do? Explore, think about. We know what is right and wrong. We're adults. We're able to reason and make logic. We can take this time to grow new things, to make new things, and to find hope, to be positive, learn new things. Think about it. When you go back to your regular lifestyle of running around like a maniac, whether it's between kids, no kids, jobs, activities, are you ever going to have time for this again? Hopefully not. I mean, realistically speaking, right? For health reasons. But when will you ever have the time to, most of us, work from home and do something good? So, I end here. Just a thought for the day: to be vulnerable, to allow your vulnerabilities to come through. They are there. Whether we find ourselves emotional or not, the vulnerabilities exist. We hide them. We have defenses. We have resistances. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. To feel the truth, to feel your own feelings, because the situations may not be easy. And be able to take your vulnerabilities, to take the limitations, to take the isolation and do something with it that can make a difference for you, that can make you feel good and happy and excited. So once again, I end here, and may you enjoy this. I will see you next time.